Well, hello and welcome to another Restore Live that goes right across the UK. And it's on a Thursday evening this time around. It's normally on a Wednesday evening. But over the past week, we've sort of rejigged what it is that we do. And the reason why that we've rejigged what we do is that we also run a platform which is called Forgotten Voices Media, telling the stories of the forgotten voices throughout the United Kingdom. And this week it's been really busy on Forgotten Voices Media, telling the stories of IRA victims. One on Sunday in Southern Ireland, and a man that lost his dad, who was a member of the legitimate Irish Army, and he was shot by the IRA. And the IRA, if you watch that story and listen to that story, the IRA, they added insult to the injury by saying that they were protecting themselves when they shot the man's dad. And what a powerful story. And very, very soon you'll see cuttings and clippings of David Kelly's story on our screen, where you'll understand that not only was British Unionists, people throughout the United Kingdom, not only were they terrorized by the IRA, but their own people were terrorized also. And coincidentally, there was more people killed by the IRA on the nationalist Catholic side than anyone else had killed. So, freeing Ireland, one nationalist, one Catholic at a time. I mean, that's a slogan that I've heard in the past, and that is something that rings very true whenever you look at the evidence. And the evidence is sitting right in front of us. So on the Forgotten Voices Media theme, before that we move on, I would like to just play you a little promotional video. Now, this was something that we done on Tuesday evening, where we teamed up with a victims group. They called South East Fermanagh Foundation, they call it. It's a victims group which works right across the UK and on into Europe and also in Ireland. And what they do is they represent victims of terrorism. And what some type of people that are involved with SEF, there's some real good stories to scratch the surface on and to listen to. So I'd like to start off by playing a little promotional advertisement, I guess, for Forgotten Voices Media. And what I would like to do is I would like to ask everyone on our screen to go across to Forgotten Voices Media on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you would give us a like and share and stick with us, because over the weeks we have some very, very good stories coming, stories of victims, stories of IRA terrorism down throughout the centuries, and they will be told in a way which will not let the Republicans rewrite their history. There's so many people, whether that be in the media, whether that be in the establishment, even in America, and they're helping the terrorists rewrite their history to say that the terrorists were good and the innocent victims were bad. And that, in my book, can never be permitted to happen. So I would like, again, to ask each and every one to go across to Forgotten Voices Media and to give us a like and a share and to stick with us. And when you see posts coming from Forgotten Voices Media about victims, I would like to ask everyone if they would share those posts, share them far and wide. I mean, social media is not going to do this for us. And if we want to stop the rewriting of history, well, what we've got to do is that we've got to team together and we've got to share this out far and wide beyond, right across all the social media platforms, in order that everyone can learn the truth. And when we hear people trying to rewrite history, well, then everyone will know and see and visualize for themselves. For example, if the mainstream media try to paint the bad guys as the good guys, well, if everyone can see what these victims say, well, they'll all know and they will all see just quite clearly how that the mainstream media are telling stories to suit their own ideologies, their own ideological driven mindsets, and this is what they're doing. So I would like for you to listen to something that we've clipped down from a show that we done on Tuesday, and it was with victims. And this man was involved in the Manchester bomb in 1992, and I would like for you to listen to this clip before we move on with the topic of tonight's show.
As I say, we didn't think for 1 minute that anything was going to happen. We thought we were going to get a free day off work, and then, as I say, I was sat on the wall, and I jumped down off the wall, and as I turned around, that's when the bomb went off, and I actually thought the bomb was in the building, and I later found out that the bomb was behind the wall that I was sat on. So how I got off that before it went off, I don't know. And then just pandemonium. The building just came crashing down on top of us, and instinctively the thing to do was to cover your head. But then obviously I felt an almighty thud in the bottom of my back. It's like somebody had really punched me hard in the bottom of my back. And I just saw people running, so I thought, well, that's what I've got to do. I managed to get up onto my feet, but I couldn't get even 2 steps away. And I just froze and I couldn't move. Two people came on either side of me and started dragging me off. And then the police took over, and I was outside Lloyd's Bank, but they couldn't move me any further than that. And then one of the police officers actually took whatever was in my back out my back. And then a bomb disposal guy came down, and he said that there was a bomb inside Lloyd's Bank and that would move away from the scene. So the police responded, we're not leaving him because, we're not leaving him. And his response was, well, leave him because he's dying anyway, And obviously hearing that wasn't a very good thing, They couldn't get an ambulance in to see me because the place was all sealed off. And eventually one of the police officers went off and brought an ambulance in with the crew. He said that they would come in and get me. And then obviously I was rushed into Manchester Royal Infirmary.
What do you say? I mean, that's an innocent victim of the Manchester bomb in 1992. He was taken from his work. He worked in Argos, and whenever he was taken out of work, there were several bombs in Manchester that day planted by the IRA, and the warnings were given in a way that, the first warning was received after 7 minutes after the first bomb went off. And according to the information that was given, the police and the security services moved Neil and his fellow workmates to a particular spot. And as you heard Neil just there, that Neil was standing at a wall and the bomb was directly behind him. The bomb exploded, and it was a bomb that changed Neil's life forever. Now, I asked the question, what did Neil ever do on Irish Republican terrorists? He done nothing. And yet these people, they promote their war as some sort of, romantic war, as some sort of freeing Ireland. Freeing Ireland by what? Killing one innocent person at a time. And on Sunday in Forgotten Voices Media, we had a man from the Irish Army who was shot dead by these people, along with a man from the Guards. And what were they doing then? Were they freeing Ireland by killing one Irish citizen at a time, one Irish Army member at a time, one Guard at a time? That's what those people done. And all I would like you to do is to go over to Forgotten Voices Media, to give us a like and a share, to stick with us, and any posts that you see from Forgotten Voices Media, help us tell the stories, help us push these stories out, help us ensure that the narratives are not rewritten to favour the terrorists, and help us expose not only the IRA, but certain people in the media, and also the American establishment. Because let me just tell you a slight story before we move on, and this must be said with reference victims. But there was a guy called Mayor de Blasio who's associated with the incoming American administration, the present. And what was it he said just a few years ago? Well, he gave Martin McGuinness an award, and he named Martin McGuinness as part of some sort of legitimate Irish Army member. The man that was on our screen on Sunday, he says that that's an affront to him because his father, that the IRA murdered, and when they kidnapped a businessman, criminality to the core. And whenever they kidnapped that businessman, the guy David Kelly's father, Paddy Kelly, he was going out looking to try to save the Irish businessman. And the IRA decided to take upon themselves to shoot David Kelly's dad. So there's how honourable their war was. So all we're asking is that you help us to push these stories out in order that this narrative cannot be rewritten, because it needs to be counteracted, and the counteracting begins right here. And with reference Forgotten Voices Media, I'm pleased to say that we have some very, very good stories coming up for you. Just on Monday evening, Tuesday evening, when we had our show, little did we know that there was people that was watching the show, and it's a very, very significant case in the history of the Troubles, and it's something that everyone should hear. And I just had a phone call today to tell me that through Seth, that family members was actually watching our stream on Tuesday, and they were very impressed with what it was that we've done. And I hope to be announcing something very, very significant in the very near future, where we're going to tell the story of these victims and the way that they've been treated ever since, and this horrible case that happened in the history of Operation Banner. That's where veterans came to Northern Ireland to stand and serve and protect, to stand between aggression, terrorism, and a sense of normality for the people of the United Kingdom, the people of Northern Ireland. And when these people were here trying to serve and protect the community, something very, very heinous happened to them. And let's just say I'd be looking forward to telling that story. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to move on with what it is that we came to do this evening. And we titled this feed, What Next for the United Kingdom? Now, this was the reason why that we came to this title this evening, was on the back of something that happened last evening, where a man in Northern Ireland, a man called Jim Allister, a barrister, and the head of the TUV, the Traditional Unionist Voice, what he did was that he came out in a live feed last evening, and he really laid out a way in which that we can defeat the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about the Northern Ireland Protocol before we move on. The Northern Ireland Protocol is something that was originally signed up in terms of, they called it divergence a few years ago by Theresa May and the EU and the various players that was involved in it. And what happened was that the DUP were involved in this. The DUP, for the people in England, the people in Scotland, the people in Wales, and people beyond, the DUP are the Democratic Unionist Party. They're the main chosen leaders of unionism here in Northern Ireland. And I can remember a few years ago, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was October of 2018. It might have been 2017, but I'll say 2018. And I can remember Theresa May summoning Arlene Foster and also Nigel Dodds and asking them to sign up to special divergence between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. Now, what does special divergence mean? Well, it meant that what we would do is that we would have different rules than the rest of the United Kingdom, but yet Northern Ireland makes up part of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. I mean, that's what makes up the United Kingdom. Without Northern Ireland, really, there's a big difference. There's a huge big gap, and there's a great big hole in the United Kingdom if Northern Ireland is diverged away from the rest of the United Kingdom. So at the time, I can remember it was very, very well. It was a Tuesday, and Arlene Foster and Nigel Dodds, they said, well, look, we can't ever be part of this, because what this would do is this would sever us from the rest of the United Kingdom. And people, let me just say this here. I'm going to play a little video or two just to show you that this is actually the case. But what Arlene Foster and Nigel Dodds was saying on the Tuesday was that, we could never be part of that, because that would separate Northern Ireland from the rest of the United Kingdom. And, I remember at the time that Wednesday passed, and on Thursday, both Nigel Dodds and Arlene Foster, well, they had agreed to this special divergence. Now, I remember that a lot of people were actually saying at that time, myself included, in fact, I wrote about it at the time, and I says that what Nigel Dodds and Arlene Foster has effectively agreed to by giving their AOK to the divergence was a border in the North Channel, which would separate Northern Ireland from the rest of the United Kingdom, and which would put in place the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form. So this is what happened a couple of years ago. Now, the DUP would take issue with that, and I can remember Jeffrey Donaldson, trying to correct me and say, no, they didn't. They done something different and they didn't quite agree to that. But the fact remains, and this will show you, is that they actually agreed with Theresa May, which give Theresa May the let's just say the fuel in her tank to go ahead and to create this special divergence. Roll on this year, where Michael Gove done a deal with the EU just on the 11th hour in December. And what they did was they done a deal with the EU, a special deal they called it. And in that deal, it didn't really include Northern Ireland being part of the rest of the United Kingdom in terms of trade. And in fact, we'll take you back a wee bit. And the Northern Ireland Protocol was formed. Within the protocol, there was going to be the case whereby that we were going to be separated from the United Kingdom in terms of our economics. So that's exactly what happened back then. So that's just a bit of context to what had happened. Now, on the protocol, I'm just going to play a little clip here from Arlene Foster, and this is very significant. And no matter why you're in England, Scotland, or Wales, I ask you to stay with us so that we can show you that literally that there's something wrong that has went on here, and it needs to be sorted out. And only the people in Northern Ireland can sort it out, and we'll show you how that can happen. So just bear with me. I'll play you another little video. Now, listen to what Arlene Foster said and mark her words.
Has anybody in Northern Ireland consented to border posts being now built between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which is Irish government officials monitoring UK officials on British soil? Has any
willing to accept any checks across the North Sea, even if they are of a regulatory nature, not customs checks?
No, and it's been very clear all along. That has been our one red line, that we cannot have either a customs border down the Irish Sea or a regulatory border, because that would make us separate from the rest of the United Kingdom. And that doesn't work from a constitutional perspective, and it doesn't work from an economic perspective either.
What if there was some political declaration that, okay, we have to agree to the possibility of checks, but they'll never be used? There's no way that they can add some language that would make you happy with any kind of the extra checks?
No, because of course that would impede the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom.
So you see what, sorry, I played the wrong video there at the start, but you see what Arlene Foster had said. She says that if there was any special divergence, any separation from the rest of the United Kingdom, it would impede the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom. So mark those words, because Arlene Foster knows fine well that the constitutional integrity of the United Kingdom has been impeded as a result of what has happened. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. And what we're going to do right now is that we're going to actually show you what a man called Ben Habib had said. And this is just something else as further confirmation of what Arlene Foster has already said. So I'm just looking for okay. So here we go.
16th of September this year, the Prime Minister told us that he'd had one hand tied behind his back when he negotiated the Northern Irish Protocol, and that he was going to bring a new internal market bill that would undo the offensive aspects of that protocol. He said that the internal market bill would get rid of the Irish Sea border, and it would get rid of the application of EU state aid law in Northern Ireland. Up until 2 weeks ago, that remained a crucial thing for the Prime Minister to deliver. And then last week, Michael Gove got up in the House of Commons and he said he'd reached an agreement with his counterpart in the EU that prevented the creeping of EU state aid law from Northern Ireland into Great Britain. And he managed to get rid of the need for declarations on goods travelling from Northern Ireland to Great Britain. But actually what he did was confirm that EU state aid law would apply in Northern Ireland. He confirmed that there would be declarations required on goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Moreover, he confirmed that there will be an office in Northern Ireland for EU officials to judge whether we've complied with our obligations under the protocol. The Prime Minister has completely collapsed on Northern Ireland. This is the beginning of the end of the Union of the United Kingdom. Make no mistake, that is precisely what is happening here. And Sturgeon will be very emboldened by these steps. When she gets a victory next year, she probably will in the Scottish elections, she will point to Northern Ireland as an example of steps taken to become independent. Unless the Prime Minister wakes up very quickly, he will find that he has presided over the breakup of the Union of the United Kingdom that has existed since 1707. Please, Boris, wake up.
So there you have it. I mean, Ben Habib, he's a political commentator, and he's a man that is, he knows his stuff, and he fights tirelessly to keep the United Kingdom together. And there's what he said. He says, now, this is for people in England, this is for the people in Scotland, this is for the people in Wales, and the people of Northern Ireland also, is that what Ben Habib says is that this is the breakup of the United Kingdom. And I say in its embryonic form, as I always say, is because what it will do is that it will embolden Nicola Sturgeon to ask for the same treatment as Northern Ireland, a border between England and Scotland, and where Scotland has the right to trade both ways and be more part of the European market for trade, the single market in the EU for trade, as they are with the rest of the United Kingdom. And just watch till you see this happening, because this has already started to happen. And we'll not go down the line where we're going to play too many videos, but we'll have video clips there which shows you where a guy called Ian Blackford is already calling for this, and already people in Wales are calling for similar. So we're just really presenting a picture in a way to show you that although that we're going to play a man now, a man called Jim Allister, and I would like you to listen to this very, very carefully. Although that we're playing this, although this man's from Northern Ireland, is that this man and the thing that he started last night is the only thing that can really save the United Kingdom from being broken up. So I would like for everyone to listen very, very carefully, listen to what we have to say after this, and then we'll bring Stephen Crosbie on our screen and we'll have a debate. And what we'll do is we'll go to the live chat and we'll ask for some questions. So if you have any questions on what that you've seen, I'd ask the live chat to continue to pop up the questions, and we'll try to get you some answers as we go. So I'm going to take you over to Jim Allister, and whenever Jim Allister is finished, well, you'll have Stephen Crosbie on the screen. I'll introduce him, and then we'll go on with the rest of the feed as it was planned.
Just last week, an EU official said, if the people of Northern Ireland can't source their goods from GB, then they need to source them from the island of Ireland. What was that about? That was about driving home what the motivation is. It is to make Northern Ireland an integral part of an all-island economy, instead of an integral part of this United Kingdom. And of course, it doesn't end there, because it is a short step, and such is the thesis of the EU. It's a short step from economic to political union. Consider the EU itself. Its founding principle in its very first treaty was to build towards ever closer union. How was it to do that? Through ever closer economic unity, knowing that it is indeed a short step from economic unity to political union. And that is the evil genius of the protocol as far as Northern Ireland is concerned. It is to disengage us from our natural hinterland and natural affinity of being part of the United Kingdom, and to turn us towards the EU and the Republic of Ireland, knowing that once that beds in, then there is no going back on that path that is set. And that is why I say to you that the EU protocol is the most iniquitous, perilous threat to the union that I have seen in my lifetime. So what do we as unions, whatever your party of preference is, what can and should we do about it? Some might say, oh, with a government with a huge majority, what can we do? Well, that's what they would like you to say. But there are things we can do. I'm no great fan of Stormont. I think you know that. But within these institutions, there is some semblance of power for unionism, which if used strategically, politically, can create the circumstances where the operation of the protocol becomes so uncomfortable for those who put it upon us that they will be driven to look again. And of course the mechanism exists in Article 16 of the withdrawal agreement. If there's such social and political and other upset by the protocol, then it must be examined again. So we need to create that. How do we create that? Well, let's look at three things that I believe as unionists we should be doing legally and lawfully. I'm not talking about street protests, I'm not talking about violence, I'm talking about using such political leverage as we have. Take the Belfast Agreement. We were told it was built on maintaining an equilibrium between North-South and East-West relations. And that was to underpin the whole idea of the Stormont institutions. Well, of course, what the protocol has done is it has smashed that equilibrium by trashing the East-West lines, by putting a border in the Irish Sea. And yet we are expected to continue to operate the North-South relations as if nothing had happened, to aid the process. Well, as unionists, surely we should be fighting back. And we should be fighting back to say, we as unionists, and I'm speaking of those who have the power in the Northern Ireland Executive, who day and daily operate the North-South institutions, they should be saying, until the protocol is revisited, we are freezing involvement in the North-South. We are not participating in the North-South Ministerial Council. We are not operating the North-South institutions, because we're not going to sit back and let you trash the East-West that matters most to us and meekly operate the North-South. So we have political leverage. The question is there the political will to use it?
So we have political leverage. The question is there political will to use it? Now, you may have noticed at the bottom of that screen there, where it was stated that the DUP solely, and the DUP that I spoke about just before we played Jim Allister, the DUP who signed us into this, signed us into the special divergence, which ended up in a border, an economic border between ourselves and the rest of the United Kingdom. So the DUP got us into this mess. I think of Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy when I say this is another fine mess that they've got us into. Now it is their onus of responsibility to get us right out of it. Now here's the thing, it is solely the DUP's within their capability to say quite clearly and to state categorically that we won't be working within any North-South body or any North-South institution or having any cooperation with Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, until such times as that we have reinstalled a level playing field, till the rights of British Unionists in Northern Ireland are respected under the terms of the Belfast Agreement. I mean, to do something like was done, you would have needed cross-community consent under the terms of the Belfast Agreement. But the cross-community consent, it wasn't sought, it wasn't granted, it wasn't authorised, and it definitely wasn't authorised by the DUP's electorate, the people who put them into power. So the reality is it's down to the DUP to rectify this problem. And solely the DUP can do this. Now, am I saying that it's only the DUP that can do this? I would prefer that all unionists, all parties, all political parties with unionists in their name, everyone that subscribes to that great union of the United Kingdom here in Northern Ireland, I would prefer that each and every party got together and they decided that it is time that unionists get up off their knees and they began standing up for themselves, because this is what's needed. This is what the electorate want. This is what the electorate demand. And Jim Allister is totally right when he says that they have it within their grasp, they have it within their power to make people rethink that this is wrong. I mean, what did Jim Allister say? Why is it ever right for, say, for example, for there to be special divergence between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom, and at the same time that there's no divergence between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? Why is that ever right? And yet we the people of the United Kingdom, we the people in Northern Ireland who placed their axe on a ballot in the EU referendum, we placed that to leave. And from my recollection, 17.4 plus million people won that referendum. We were part of that, winning that referendum. And yet here we are having our democracy denied. Here we are having ourselves designated as second-class citizens. And here we are having our democracy denied, because this is as serious as it gets. And it's down to the DUP to rectify this. So I would just like to advise everybody, we have a man that's going to pop some emails up on the screen. And, you know, there's the contacts for DUP members. In fact, there's the contacts for MLAs. And, you know, we'll get you the emails of politicians and councillors. And what we need to do as people is that we need to begin lobbying our politicians and telling them not in our name. And remember that there was a vote for the special divergence, the rule changes with reference to protocol, and all unionist politicians in the Northern Ireland Assembly, with the exceptions of Jim Allister and Jim Wells. Everyone else, all those British unionist politicians, they voted to implement the Northern Ireland Protocol, which puts in place a separation between us and the United Kingdom. Effectively, people, those politicians, whether they were corralled by their party political machines to do so, those people are responsible for the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form. And that's how serious this is. So over to the live chat for a second before we bring Stephen in. And Stephen, sorry that it went on so long, but as you can see, there was a very important message to deliver to people today. And I believe, you know, from the bottom of my heart, that the DUP actually need to rectify this. And, you know, if they don't, and if the UUP don't come on board, and if the PUP don't come on board, the TUV are standing up against this. What does that mean? Does that mean that the other parties, they're effectively working towards the breakup of the United Kingdom? How can they call themselves unionists if they do so? That's a very serious question. And I would like to see all parties getting behind what Jim Allister had said. Now, for the rights and wrongs of it, there's some people that think that the TUV, Jim Allister and co, are maybe rigid as a party. They're not open and inviting to others in a way that brings people to support them politically. You know, there's many people that are looking for other political parties to support, and many people think that they couldn't actually support the TUV. But, you know, as Jim Allister said at the start of his debate, or start of his live last evening, he said that you may not like me, but you don't have to like me. You need to listen to the words that he had to say. And I'm asking each and every person to listen to the words. There is no other way under God's sun that this can be defeated other than unionists collectively, together, united. They can say that we're not participating in any North-South institutions. We won't be implementing any directives. We won't be supporting anything that comes out of the EU until the right of the Northern Ireland British Unionist is respected and replaced as first-class citizen. And before that happens, they should literally withdraw from everything. And that's what we need. We can't do this because of the COVID restrictions. We can't protest. We can't do anything. It's down to the people that got us into this mess to get us back out of it again. So that's how serious it is. And I would like for everyone to convince your family members to lobby the DUP, to demand of the DUP that they do exactly what Jim Allister had suggested. Jim Allister's a barrister. He's no stupid person. And, you know, I'm going to go back to the December, I guess the third week in December of last year. And I have to say that we went live one Friday. And I put a smile on my face to see that Jim Allister, the way that he was speaking last night, because I'll tell you why. And I'm going to actually go back and cut this video up, Stephen. I take pride in the fact that I suggested in December, prior to us being get into this special divergence at the end of December, I suggested that the only thing that we could do is for the DUP to walk away from the North-South institutions and say that they not be back anywhere near them until the rights of the Northern Ireland Unionist electorate is reinstalled as first-class citizens. And I'm going to cut that video because that's exactly as I suggested that it should be done in December. And, you know, I take my hat off to Jim Allister last night for coming to the same conclusion. So there we go. We're going to move on with the show. But look, I mean, I thought we would start along those lines, and it's something that needs to be done. And in fact, again, we should really take pride and we should smile that it's in the hands of the people of Northern Ireland to save the rest of the United Kingdom. Now, that's a big thing. That's a very important thing, because if we don't break this protocol, believe me, this protocol will actually break us. So again, I'm going to appeal to the live chat. I'm going to appeal to the people that is watching. I'm going to appeal to the people that will come along that will watch this in the future. And this is what happens. People come along at later stages to watch. I'm going to ask you to join with us, the team with us, to watch this entire feed over again and to literally stand together, because together we are strong. And, you know, isn't it time that we had a bit of unity from our political leaders? In fact, we demand right now of these political leaders on this very subject, if never again, they have to create this unity and they have to stand against this, and they have to, as in the words of what Ian Paisley would have said in his earlier life before he died. What did he say? He says that he would smash Sinn Féin. Well, together, the unionist parties can smash the protocol, putting in place or taking off the shackles of the United Kingdom, which would actually break up the United Kingdom and cause the greatest union that the world has ever seen to be no longer. So the DUP have a heavy weight on their shoulders this evening. And, you know, Jim Allister made that live appeal last night. And to date, I haven't seen any feedback from the DUP. So we'll be expecting that feedback. I mean, the DUP have, I guess, I've sent Jeffrey Donaldson some messages. I've sent Emma Pengelly some messages, who is Arlene Foster's special advisor. And I used to talk to both sets. But I think that they avoid me nowadays, because maybe what it is that we're asking them is maybe not, maybe it's too hard for them. Maybe they don't want the hard questions. They don't want to be able to answer the hard questions. Well, you know something? Tomorrow I'm going to be approaching my MP, and I'm going to be demanding of my MP that he gets me an answer to these questions. And I would ask each and every one on our screen to do exactly the same. So there's your MPs, there's your MLAs, and there's your councillors, all within the DUP, all within the UUP, all within the PUP. And look, all we want is for our political parties, just on this one occasion, to do the right thing and to stand together and help save the United Kingdom. This is what's needed, and this is what's expected. So I'm going to move over to Stephen there. Again, I guess, you know, it's been on for 40 minutes there, but I think that had to be delivered in the way that it had to be delivered. I'm going to ask the live chat to ask questions, you know, make comments, continue to comment, and we hope that we can give you answers as the time will go on. Stephen, it's very serious times whenever you see it laid out like that. And, make no mistake, as Ben Habib had said, it will be the breakup of the United Kingdom. And already Sturgeon have been making noises. And also they're doing exactly the same in Wales. And I believe that this is the plan. I believe that this was set in place in Northern Ireland in 1990 when the then Secretary of State, Sir Peter Brooke, Peter Brooke, he said that Britain has no selfish, strategic or economic interest in Northern Ireland. And today, in 2021, we are seeing the culmination of what Peter Brooke had said. Well, look, there's legal ways in which we can defeat this. And I hope that people really get behind what it is that Jim Allister wanted to do. And we help put wind in the sails of the TUV and Jim Allister in order to defeat this. Over to you, Stephen.
All right, thank you. Yes, John, thank you very much, and thank you to all your viewers as well. It's obvious, that Boris has not fulfilled the will of 17.4 million people. We do, unfortunately, have Northern Ireland being betrayed. We also have fishing being really a very, very shoddy deal. And even other issues like finance hasn't been discussed. We still appear to be linked into the EU in defence. So it's a case on what Brexiteers, myself included, we're always concerned that a bad deal is the worst of both worlds, and unfortunately we're seeing now in Northern Ireland the protocol. Let's remind ourselves that this protocol was something which was conjured up by the SDLP, by Sinn Féin, by the Alliance Party, and the Green Party. So really, they need to own it. Every time you're going into a shop and you're seeing difficulties finding goods because they're being stuck at a port and not able to come in, this is the result of the and I include the Alliance Party, the Pan-Nationalist Front, who really have achieved what they want to do, allow the EU in having a foothold into the United Kingdom. And you better believe it that the EU will do absolutely everything in their power to stir up this discontent, to stir up all the trouble, and point it to, well, you've got it because this is a part of Brexit. But this is not true Brexit. This is not the clean-cut leaving of the EU and its institutions that we all voted for. I'm based here in England now at the present time, and I'm in Bradford, West Yorkshire. Obviously, I'm originally from Northern Ireland. But me voting here to leave the EU has been honoured. It has not been honoured throughout the whole of Northern Ireland. We have a situation now where there are so-called unionists, and I'm starting to wonder what sort of unionists they are. Are they European unionists in the Northern Ireland Assembly who voted just a few weeks ago to ban soil from Great Britain? This is British. I always thought that British soil was the same throughout the whole of the United Kingdom. So they have banned soil being imported, and that's terrible to even use that term, imported, transferred from one part of the United Kingdom, namely GB, into Northern Ireland. Now, that has devastating effects on horticultural goods, but really, we have to stand up for the fact that Northern Ireland is part of British soil. And this is the ludicrous caving in of the DUP and the Ulster Unionist Party. You're right to point out, John, that there are only a couple of honourable people, being Jim Wells and Jim Allister, who actually saw this decision for what it was, and they have to be commended for that. It is very, very difficult when you're well, the reality is there are only two MLAs standing up for the will of so many people throughout Northern Ireland. The whole Good Friday Agreement, the Belfast Agreement, is unfortunately a one-way ticket to a united Ireland. And there's absolutely very, very little that unionists have actually seen that they can attribute anything reasonable in the Good Friday Agreement. You even have this idea of a border poll that can be called by the Secretary of State. But even the border poll, they said, okay, after the first border poll, there has to be a minimum, there's a minimum of 7 years. So every 7 years, you can have another border poll. But it's asymmetric, because you'll keep on voting until the vote goes in favour of a united Ireland, and then that's it, finished. So all you're really doing, once you start that cycle of border polls, it's only ever going to go one way. And who would want to be investing in a country that's going to have potential change every 7 years? You're not going to have any long-term plans. I'm an engineer, and anyone in business, if you're going to be making especially big investments in new technology, you're not talking sort of 5 or 7 years. You're talking, at least 10 years. And who in their right mind is going to invest in Northern Ireland when after the first poll has been held, thinking, oh, okay, now it's British soil, it's part of the United Kingdom today, but in a few years' time, it may actually all change. It's ludicrous. And let's be consistent. We've noticed that Sturgeon obviously is hyping up another referendum. Now, referendums tend to be generational. And again, Sturgeon's wanting another one. This is a lady who will not accept the will of the people. The last referendum said, no, we're staying part of the United Kingdom. Then we had another EU referendum. No, I don't like the result of that. She's very selective. It's a bit like selective hearing that some people may have. And unfortunately, Sturgeon, like so many others, will use the cloak of democracy when it suits them. We have seen, unfortunately, an attack on people throughout the United Kingdom, but mainly in Northern Ireland, by Sinn Féin IRA, who used the bullet on the ballot box. They will use democracy when it suits them, but really, they're no Democrats. And again, that even comes now round to the Democratic Unionist Party, who really do have influence. How democratic are they? How committed to the union are they? These are the questions that need to be asked. I'm really surprised that the DUP, or am I surprised? They are very quick to look for your vote at election time, as soon as you put your acts for the DUP, they just totally take you for granted and abuse you, and abuse that right that you have to have an influence in your society. And there are no red lines with Arlene Foster. It's only a matter of time before we see Arlene taking up her seat in the House of Lords and sitting drifting off to sleep, like a few of the others in that building, totally abdicating any principles at all for the union.
Stephen, I mean, Arlene Foster's already on record as saying that if there is going to be this version of a new Ireland, well, she won't live here. She's the money to get up and to go and maybe move closer to the House of Lords, where she's going to she's a baroness in waiting, and we all know that. And, you know, it'll come down the line whereby that the DUP will blame it all on Arlene, or try to blame it all on Arlene, and you know, they think that by putting in new leadership, everybody's going to get in behind them. Now, look, as people, we all got behind the DUP last December. So we've proved that we can set our differences aside. The people can set their differences aside, and they can work together in order to support chosen leaders of unionism. Isn't it time now that the DUP reciprocated and done exactly the same thing? It's their turn. It is actually their turn, and they need to be able to do this, because we've never needed them as much as we need them today to walk away from north-south bodies, to walk away from north-south institutions, to do it in the media, not behind closed doors where they could be working in them anyway. But we need them to clearly walk away, and we need them to stop implementing anything to do with the Northern Ireland Protocol. That's what we need. We need that. You know, they signed up to so many rules. Yeah, there may be court cases. Well, let there be court cases, because the reality is that our democracy was derailed. My vote, I mean, I'm made a second-class citizen, and yet nobody seems to worry about me or you, Stephen, or anyone else that took part in that Brexit referendum from Northern Ireland, when we're made second-class citizens. So I don't buy that nonsense that we have to do this. And I think Jim Allister went into that last evening. Stephen, as you were talking, I made a couple of little notes there. And, you know, you were talking about Nicola Sturgeon there and her never ending, her referendum, which goes on and on and on and on and on, and it doesn't stop until such times as the Scottish nationalists, they get the answer that they want. Now, England, you know, the Westminster government, they're resisting that right now. But that isn't actually the case with Northern Ireland, because under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, what it says is that if there is a referendum, and if it doesn't go the nationalist Republican way, well, they'll get one every 7 years. Now, you can't break it when it's on their side. It has to be respected when it's on their side. But yet, here we are today, and the Good Friday Agreement has not only been broken, but it's been torn up and it's been put in the bin, because the cross-community consent was removed for. And here's what happened just a few days ago, and listen up very, very carefully. The Northern Ireland office has come out and actually stated quite clearly in the newsletter, and they have said that they've changed the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, the Belfast Agreement, to allow a vote to go through the Assembly on the protocol, to allow, from my recollection, I think there was 45 different laws or EU directives that was implemented through the Northern Ireland Assembly. And again, I refer to the fact that only Jim Allister and only Jim Wells voted against that. And every single MLA that you people have put in place to represent you, to serve and protect you, to stand up for you, to protect the United Kingdom, well, they're not doing it right now. And those people need to be called into account. That's exactly what needs to be done. So we have a man who's very, very kindly, he's popping up emails on our live chat. And I would ask everyone, if anybody has the capability of finding their MLAs, their councillors, their MPs emails, pop them up on our live chat for people to pour over and get whatever emails that they need in order to lobby these people, in order to ask these people. It's their turn. We stood for them last year in December to get them elected. So it's their turn to do what it is that we need, to do the right thing, to save the United Kingdom, for and on behalf of people in England, in Scotland, in Wales, and in Northern Ireland. That's what we need from our DUP. So the never-ending, I mean, it is a never-ending if it happens in Northern Ireland. And you can see the media right now, they're promoting this, you know, a border poll, a border poll, a border poll. I am sick listening to those words, a border poll. Look, listen, I wouldn't be engaging with that. I wouldn't be engaging in anything, yet some of our DUP members, you know, I'm talking about your Peter Robinsons of the day, you know, and other, amongst others, they're saying, oh, we need to engage in this. No, we do not indeed. What we need to do is that we need to expand upon the reasons why that it is that we should remain part of the United Kingdom. And if they don't want to listen to that, we'll let them have their little talking shop. Let them work away in their little echo chamber. Don't participate in talking about the benefits of so-called New Ireland. I can tell you what the benefits are right now. The benefits are that once you go there, you're subjected to exactly the same as what ordinary Irish citizens are being subjected to whilst living in the South. If they want to say that they're Irish, they're being told that they're fascist. They're being told that they're far right. They're being told that they're, you know, they're racist. That's what they're being told. What would we be told as British Unionists if we tried to stand up for British Unionism? You know, they will coax people in, people like Mike Nesbitt, Peter Robinson, just to name but a few. They will coax those people in with a piece of bread being the operative word. They'll be handsomely rewarded for it. They'll coax them in with a piece of bread. And as the old football chant went, now I'm not going to say it in these bad terms, but they'll coax them in with a piece of bread and then they'll squash the poor bird's head. And that's what lays at the end of the pathway that they want to travel. So don't be fooled. Don't be giving it any support. Talk about the benefits of hands across the water. Hands across the water, reaching out to our English or Scottish and our Welsh friends and ensuring that the bonds that we've had throughout the centuries, that those bonds are never, ever, ever broken. And that's what we need to do as unionists. And any unionist that wants, that promotes that type of thing, well, as Carson said, when is a unionist not a unionist? I'll say that again. When is a unionist not a unionist? A unionist not a unionist when he causes disunity. And to try to take unionists into this so-called New Ireland, to even think about talking about it, that is causing disunity. Now, there's a huge difference between promoting this New Ireland and wanting to talk about the benefits of it and reaching out into, say, the Irish Republic, or reaching out across the divide here in Northern Ireland, reaching out to our nationalists, our Catholic neighbours, in order to do what? In order to ask those people to join us politically, in order to promote the benefits of staying part of the greatest union that the world has ever seen, in order to promote the last bastion where people has stood together. I mean, let's face it, the global command has swept the world, the Western world, knocking down borders left, right and centre. But here we are in Northern Ireland, here we are in England, here we are in Scotland, here we are in Wales, and we're still together. And the people of the United Kingdom come out in great numbers. 17.4 plus million people won that referendum in order to tell the globalists, on your bike, we are having no part of it. We want to remain together. We want to maintain our Britishness. We want to maintain our way of life. We want to maintain our culture and everything that we've ever grown up with and everything that we've ever believed in. That's what we want to maintain. And we went to the polls and we told them so. But here they are today in 2021. And, you know, it's as if that the vote didn't matter. They blatantly, they are removing the democratic right of the people of Northern Ireland, making them second-class citizens. And not only making them second-class citizens, but rendering those people, they're discriminating against us. I'd like just to play a little video before I move on, Stephen, and this will set the context for the next part of the show. So here we go. Just a few weeks ago, I talked to a professor of politics from the University of Liverpool. a man called Professor John Tong. Now, John Tong is he's a professor. He's a professor of politics, and he knows all about politics. Now, I smile when I say this, and I think John Tong understood what I was trying to do. But I asked John Tong a particular question, and listen very carefully, because before John Tong answered, he went, "Wow." In other words, how am I going to answer that? Just listen to it, and we'll come back and we'll have a chat about it, and we'll go on to you, Stephen, and we'll get your view, and we'll go to the live chat. So bear with me. And let's look at this concept of democracy. And whenever that you would place your axe on a ballot paper, and I'll just pop the particular ballot paper up here for people to see. And the commentary I would give here is that it was a referendum for the entire United Kingdom, as you can see. I mean, if I place my axe here in the Leave the European Union, and 17.4 plus million other people also done exactly the same, and we won the referendum, so to speak. Is it ever right? Now, this is a very serious question, and I'd like you to answer this really, carefully for me. But is it ever acceptable from an academic's point of view, from a professor of politics point of view, that democracy would be split up in the way that it was split up, and having say, for example, there's 4 constituent parts, 3 constituent parts are treated differently than 1 constituent part. Why is that ever acceptable, John?
It's a great question, John, and it's a difficult one. It's a complex one to answer, because I get the premise of your question, and in many ways, I know where you're going with it, and I agree to a considerable extent. You were asked remain or leave. It didn't say, but one part of the UK will leave on different terms to the rest of the UK. And that's where I think that the Loyalist protesters and the DUP and UUP are correct in posing departure on different terms from the rest of the UK. We also live in a world of pragmatism. So you can argue that the EU played that border for all it was worth, the north-south border. And I would have, again, some sympathy with that argument. But we knew that was coming. I would agree that the signs are not good early on. There's been shortages in supermarkets. There's been, firms unaware of what they've got to do. And if you're a Great Britain, investing in Great Britain, why would you be particularly interested in trading in Northern Ireland, given you've got this extra paperwork to complete? So I understand the annoyance of unionists.
I understand the annoyance of unionists, and I hope everybody caught whenever he was saying, well, I agree, but wow. And then he went on to speak about something else, because the reality is that, look, John Tong is a good guy, right? But the truth of the matter is he works within a university, and he works with government bodies in various places, and he can't take a side, and that's just how it is. He can't actually nail his colours to the mast. And even though that he should have said, because I went on to say, is that a corruption of our democracy, John? When 3 constituent parts are treated different than 1 constituent part? Well, obviously that it is, but that John couldn't answer it in the way that it should have been answered. So not only is there a case whereby that the politicians here can withdraw themselves from north-south bodies or any implementation of anything to do with the EU, with the border in the North Channel, and anything to do with the EU, if there's any laws that come to be passed or EU directives to the Northern Ireland Assembly, well, all unionists should actually oppose them, and that is, no matter what, right across the board, demanding that these things can be reinstated again whenever the EU and whenever the Irish government, whenever the British government begin treating the Northern Ireland electorate as first-class citizens and not discriminating against them, not removing their democracy, and not totally treating them in an unfair way. And that's what our DUP and all unionist parties need to stand together in order to do. So there we have it. We asked the academic, he couldn't answer the way that we wanted him to answer, but we are technically being discriminated against. That's what discrimination is. Discrimination is that you treat others differently than you treat some folk. And yet, again, we'll pop up the ballot paper for each and every one to see. And this is for the people who come to the screen afterwards. But here's the ballot paper. the ballot paper is that, you know, there was a referendum. You vote once by putting a cross in the box next to your choice. And if you put your X in the leave the European Union, if more people put their X in leave the European Union than they did remain in the European Union, well, then you see that vote has to be upheld. And it went further than that, because whenever we got that you know, we went to the polls, the results came in, the Brexiteers had won, and then David Cameron, he said about trying to redefine how he had already defined the entire referendum and what would happen afterwards. Because David Cameron said this, Stephen, he said there'll be one vote, there'll not be any renegotiation. If you want to leave, you'll be leaving. If you want to stay and remain, you'll be remaining. So he was basically saying, may the best people win. And in this case, the Brexiteers won, but yet the very next day they went into reverse, and they went into overdrive using the media and all sorts of Project Fear to try to overturn the entire Brexit referendum. And how have they overturned it? Well, they've overturned it in a way that was very, very clever. And how do I mean that? Well, by putting in place the breakup of the United Kingdom in its embryonic form. They knew fine well, they were warned of it, they were told of it. There were people saying before that it happened that the minute that Northern Ireland diverges from the rest of the United Kingdom, well, that would embolden the Scottish nationalists. That would also put in place the emboldening of the Welsh nationalists. And what would happen is that those people would agitate and fight, and it would add fuel to their fire. And the British government knew this fine well, but yet they pressed on and they went down the line that they did. So here's the swindle. The swindle is this, is that it's Northern Ireland today. And there's an old song that says, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. And in this case, the next one is Scotland. And the next one is Wales. So the DUP have a heavy burden on their shoulders today. There is no party political machine in the United Kingdom today that can actually stop this. And there's a big burden on the DUP. So keep the emails coming. Keep people lobbying the DUP. Tell them that you'll never vote for them again. Tell them that they need to step up to the plate. Tell them they need to do what was right. Tell them that the people of Northern Ireland will never forgive them if they don't do the right thing right now, as per what the barrister had suggested last evening, that barrister being Jim Allister. Stephen, it beggars belief. So if you'd like to give some thoughts on that, I'll go over to preparing the next part of the show. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think what you're seeing with the UK's history of breaking up the United Kingdom, we saw obviously Blair in the past been very heavily involved in trying to get devolution set up in Northern Ireland, but we've also then seen the devolution in Wales and in Scotland. Now, what we all know, it was part of the EU's aim to break up the United Kingdom, and in fact, they also had the whole of England divided up into different regions as well. But really, the UK government have had a very poor record on these referendums. Now, I personally, you'll notice it's 5dd.uk, where we believe in direct democracy. We actually do believe in referendums, but they haven't been handled correctly. When you look at referendums around the world, you have supermajorities in binding referendums, at least 60%, 60 to 65%, and a 60% turnout. But what we've found both in Wales, it was actually only a few thousand people different, making the difference for the Welsh Assembly at the time being formed. It was a very divisive, and it wasn't a clear-cut decision. And likewise in Scotland as well. It's not a clear cut to be making any changes. So we can have binding referendums, and we can have then advisories, non-binding, almost like a major opinion poll to give elected representatives a feel for the mood of the electorate. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the breakup. We're even starting to see in different parts of England where you have in Manchester, you have MERS being set up, and across the UK, where so they can again in London, and they're all little despots in their own little regions, making not serving the people in those areas. And in fact, we would be of an opinion that that's not real devolution at all. It needs to go down to a much lower level. And, you know, unfortunately, we see another lure of politicians being set up with all of their advisors. That, you've got to remember, is one of the reasons why when the Northern Ireland Assembly was down for quite a period of time, you know, the politicians were having difficulty trying to justify keeping their PAs, so they always wanted to get back into their position where it was seemingly operating. And when you've got bills to pay, when you've got your staff to pay, you need to be seen to be functioning. How effective they are in delivering for the people is another matter, but that is the way that the government have mishandled things. The EU are going to use this opportunity. They've got a foothold within the UK, and they will be stirring things up and pointing out this is a classic example of Brexit not working. That unfortunately has been aided and abetted by the so-called Conservative and Unionist Party. I don't even see them. They're definitely not unionist. They're not a UK unionist. And I would argue when you even look at their economic policies on social issues, they're not conservative either. I really just do not know what they are. When you see Boris now, you realize that Boris is just operating. He's a puppet. He's a puppet to all these globalists who want to do away with any form of national identity. I would love to see not a united Ireland, but a shared Ireland. You know, we need to have respect on both sides. I would like to see sharing where that is feasible and a sensible decision to make. But my goodness, you need to be respecting the fact that people want to be British. And I see the Good Friday Agreement as being just going down one particular path, and there's nothing. It's all about give and take, and unfortunately, it's the Republican and nationalist community who are doing all the taking, and the Unionists are giving, surrendering, giving up, chipping away at British identity and undermining the Union bit by bit. And I don't know, there may be some people maybe who were giving them the benefit of the doubt. I really do fear for areas who are going down the alliance line. Alliance are just a lighter shade of green, and they are doing absolutely nothing at all for the union.
Stephen, yeah, so look, again, I was flipping around there, so I was in the live chat. And I have to say, on the live chat this evening, I mean, there's fair play to George Russell. He's popping up all lots of emails of lots of different councillors and MLAs and MPs. And I have to say, I found it hard to go through the live chat to find the one that I was looking for. But specifically, it's this one here that we need to concentrate on. It's the Northern Ireland Assembly. It's the MLAs. So what you'll find in this link, a list of your MLAs, and what you really need to do is you need to contact them, and you need to tell them that they're your MLA. You need to tell them that not in your name, and they need to stop operating or stop participating in north-south ministerial meetings, and also any north-south bodies. And also what you need to do is you need to tell them that they need to literally stand together and tell Edwin Poots that that he should not be operating or working within or furthering or implementing anything to do with the border in the North Channel, because the reality is that when your democracy has been taken away, when you've been made a second-class citizen, when you have not been recognised in the way that 3 other constituent parts of the United Kingdom has been recognised, that is a corruption of democracy. And whenever there has been corruption in democracy, that is fraud. So people, you've been frauded, and you have absolutely every right. We'll call this lawful rebellion. That's what we'll call it, quote unquote, lawful rebellion. And we need the DUP like we have never needed them before. So people, if you can continue to push this message to the DUP, I'm going to try. I don't know why they'll want to listen to me right now, and especially after tonight's show where I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. But it takes someone to push these people to do the right thing. They need to do the right thing. They need to do the right thing by the people of Northern Ireland. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take you to a little picture. I remember writing about this picture just a few years ago. And, you know, given that we're doing the stream on Forgotten Voices Media, given that I have been talking to victims, you know, and we've been spending a lot of time talking to victims in the background, and through, I guess, researching what it is that happened to some of these victims. And, you know, something that I'm amazed at whenever I listen to these people, you know, even though that they've been victims, I mean, some of their members of their families and their loved ones have been killed. And, you know, they're traumatized, they're re-traumatized. Stephen, when you talk about give and take, you see, this is typical of the Sinn Féin IRA and the conglomerate of leftists that is joined with them, whether that be the Alliance Party, the Green Party, the People Before Profit, and sometimes our own UUP. And seemingly now, the DUP is going down that road. But you see, it never ceases to amaze me that these victims, what do they say? All they want is recognition. All they want is for justice to have been seen to have done. But you see, here's your problem. Our own politicians, our Westminster government, those that are in authority, you see, what they do is they see the victims as the soft touch. And what they do is they continue to facilitate, they continue to appease the people that want to wreck and ruin and destroy Northern Ireland. I'm going to quote from the Bible here. It says that the thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So those 3 words, that very phrase, it actually represents what Sinn Féin are, what Sinn Féin is to the United Kingdom, what the EU is to the United Kingdom. They want to steal, they want to kill, and they want to destroy it. Are we going to let that happen? Over to the DUP. It's up to the DUP to stop that. The DUP have that within their power today, and I keep pressing this home. It is up to those people. Remember, people stood up for you. Stephen, you came from England, Bradford last year, to sit in the Ulster Hall at a rally for the Union to support the DUP. You know, that was a big thing for you to get on a plane to come to Northern Ireland, as did many other people come. People from Scotland, people from England came, people from all around Northern Ireland to stand, to try to ensure that the DUP were elected and sent back to Westminster in big numbers. And here we are in January of 2021, where we all require the DUP to do the right thing, because we stood for them. And, you know, again, I'm going to quote Carson, is that we were only humble rungs in a ladder, you too, Stephen, and the people in England and the people in Scotland and all the people of Northern Ireland, we were only humble rungs in a ladder that got the DUP into power. And once in power, what do? They kick away the ladder for no concern for us. For no concern for us. Yes, we know that the Conservative Party done exactly the same with the DUP. Are they learning traits of the Conservative Party? Are they becoming the Conservative Party? Is this what they do with their electorate? Is this what they do with people that support them? Isn't it time the DUP done the right thing? I'm going to show you a picture, something that I wrote about just a few years ago. And back to the victims, is that I was talking to a man on Tuesday evening, a man that was, a victim in the Claddagh bomb, or the Claddagh bombings, as I was corrected. And, that is a very, very controversial case. And the man that was speaking to me the other evening on our live show on Forgotten Voices Media, in talking to him, he tells us a bit about the case, and when his brother was killed in the Claddagh bombings, and there's a huge depth to be scratched with reference to that bomb, and with reference what went on and what actually happened. And, and that's something that we really, really hope to do in the near future. And the reason why I mentioned that bomb is because one Martin McGuinness and his unit, and we all know that Martin McGuinness was in the IRA, and that was admitted. So his unit, who also were responsible for strapping a Catholic, a nationalist, to his van seat and using him as a human bomb, freeing Ireland, one Catholic, one nationalist at a time, by strapping them to their van seat and blowing them up. Patsy Gillespie was that man's name. And the reason why I mentioned the Claddagh bomb and I mentioned Patsy Gillespie, because I'm going to pop up a picture on the screen. I'm going to refer to something that happened just a few years ago. And this was at Martin McGuinness's funeral. And I remember thinking that this is the handshake that will destroy the union. And I'm going to show you the handshake of which I speak. And I wrote about this. I must actually, maybe in our next stream, read what I wrote at the time. And I'll give you my rationale for saying exactly what I said. But have a look at this picture and let it bed in. What you'll see is you'll see Arlene Foster on the bottom section of your screen, bottom right, reaching over to Michelle O'Neill, shaking her hand. That was at the funeral of Martin McGuinness. On the run up to that funeral, there was a concerted effort by the media to put Arlene Foster behind the 8 ball. Will she go? Won't she go? Will she go to pay her respects for the butcher of the Bogside? Will she go to pay her respects for this man that is being treated and hailed as a hero? Not according to the victims, not according to his victims, not according to the people that were behind, on the receiving end of what Martin McGuinness's unit actually done. He wasn't the hero. He was a terrorist, and a criminal terrorist at that. But yet they paint this man as some sort of peacemaker. Now, will Arlene go? Will she won't go? Well, she did go. She was put behind the 8 ball, and she was, in my honest opinion, corralled into going to Martin McGuinness's funeral. And there you go. There was the handshake, which was, made headlines at the time. And I can remember thinking, well, if that is how easy Arlene Foster is pushed, God help us in the future. I'll say that again. If the media were able to push her to do that, attend Martin McGuinness's funeral, shake the hand of Michelle O'Neill. I mean, was that some sort of reaching out? Was that some sort of attempt at reconciliation? What was it Churchill said? You can't negotiate with a tiger when your head is in its mouth. And right now, the DUP, the entire DUP party, seem to have their collective head in the tiger's mouth. Think about that for one moment. Arlene Foster was pushed into, I'll pop it up again, going to Martin McGuinness's funeral when there's so many victims that man created, not just on the British Unionist side, but also on the nationalist and Catholic side of the fence. In November, we talked to a lady called Aileen Quinton. Aileen Quinton lost her mum in the Enniskillen bomb. The Enniskillen bomb. That's where a unit of the IRA, they decided to place a bomb at a memorial, a Poppy Day memorial, where people were remembering their dead. Now again, think about that. What type of vile animals, what type of vile excuses for human beings would kill people, men, women, and children, when they're remembering their dead? You heard it at the start of the show. A man that was in the Manchester bomb, an innocent man, a man that was out doing a day's work, a man that was brought to a spot by the police unknowingly, and a bomb exploded. Now, ask yourself the question, should these people be traumatized, re-traumatized, and traumatized again by Republicans? We know what Republicans do. They're vile. They don't seem to know when to stop. So why is our British government facilitating them? Why is the media facilitating them? Why is Arlene Foster, in this picture, facilitating these animals, shaking the hand, going to the funeral of this monster? I take a deep breath. The DUP need to do the right thing. The DUP have been doing the wrong thing for too long. And the DUP, they need to begin standing up for the people of Northern Ireland. They need to begin, doing the right thing and standing on the side of law-abiding citizens. They need to be standing on the side of democracy. And if the Conservatives want to derail and ditch democracy, well, that's for the Conservatives to do. But we expect the people that we elect in Northern Ireland to do the right thing, to stand on the right side. That's what we expect. So let's hope that they do it. Stephen, over to you. We'll go over it a bit. I'd just like for you to close. I'd just like for you to give me your thoughts on exactly what you see. And, I thank you for coming on, Stephen. Stephen's a good man, by the way, and this is to the live chat. He's a knowledgeable guy. Stephen, also, if you would like to quote, you've come up with some solutions that were being victimized in terms of some of the treaties that has been signed. Again, if you know what I'm speaking about, you can go ahead and you can tell the people about that. But again, I would like for you to talk for a bit, explain what it is that you see going wrong, and then what we'll do is we'll come across to myself. We'll just pay the people that comes and joins us. We'll pay them. We'll bid them good night, and we'll play us out with our theme tune. So over to you, Stephen.
I'll tell you, just highlight a couple of things that we can all do. Yes, John has obviously posted some links. I really do stress that you do contact your MLAs and your councillors and make it very clear to them. But can I encourage you, obviously, to make it very courteous? There's no reason why you should be disrespectful for their position. Just sit down and try and write from what is in your heart in a very clear way. But obviously there's no need for any foul language. Just be very courteous and just explain to them the reason why you're writing to them, and the sense of betrayal, the perilous times that we're facing, your commitment to the union, and encourage them to do the right thing. I'm sure, and I don't know who's watching right now, or those who are maybe watching later on at some stage. But if there are elected politicians listening, watching this live stream at some stage, like, if you're getting absolutely nowhere at all with the leadership of your party, I know that if it happened in my area and you just came to the end of your tether, realizing there's absolutely nothing at all that you can do within your party structure, you will be well respected by a large number of the electorate if you were to leave the structure that you're in and stand. It's entirely up to yourself what you want to do. If you stand as an independent unionist, you will be respected. I do know one gentleman who is an independent unionist councillor, who has been respected for that decision and has been returned time and time again, because he has people can see his sincerity. He's a man of principle, and he will be respected. You know, people look to politicians as people with some principles. You've got a red line. At the end of the day, you've got to sleep in your bed at night with a clear conscience. And I know there are genuine people out there, both MLAs and councillors, and your hands are being tied, and you're probably being pulled from to and fro by the leadership, who I'm hoping that they're listening to you. But if they're, it's one thing listening, it's another thing taking action. Can I stress to you, please consider your position, and if it needs be, then do make the right decision to put your electorate first. If that entails you leaving your party, it's entirely up to you whether you join another party or stand as an independent. But I know that you will be well respected for making that decision. So, you know, it's an issue that you've got to take. Have a chat with your family, have a chat with your real close colleagues. But this is a difficult time. Northern Ireland, yet again, how many times have I said this? Northern Ireland at the crossroads. And unfortunately, we're now seeing not just a crossroads, but Northern Ireland is facing a roadblock. There's a roadblock between Northern Ireland and GB, and we need to do absolutely everything in our might to remove that roadblock. It's a situation where the union is at stake here, because what is going to happen in Northern Ireland over the next few years is going to be fueling nationalists in Scotland and in Wales to what we want our bit as well, and that's one way that they're going to try and undo the work of the EU referendum by trying to have a divide and conquer policy. Yeah, it's a situation where there are those who want to break up the whole of the United Kingdom. We as a party, I represent the 5-Star Direct Democracy Party. Our website is 5dd.uk. We believe that greater participation should be taking place throughout the life of politics, not just once every 4 to 5 years where you go in and you put a 1, 2, 3 or an X on a box, but that you continually have an influence. And in some respects, what we're seeing now and the sense of powerlessness that we have got in the change in Northern Ireland, you know, that's a classic example of representative democracy not working. Once you have got your vote cast you have absolutely no say at all until the next time there's an election. Whereas what we are advocating is that petitions, referendums can be raised by citizens themselves. So you get 5% of the electorate to form to raise a petition. Then a referendum committee will have the wording of that to ensure that it is very clear, that there's no ambiguity. And then we have a referendum whereby at least 60 to 65%, it depends, around the world, they have different levels of a supermajority, not just a 50% plus one person.
Stephen, I've just have to say that I have a phone call here, so I'll have very, very shortly. So try to close up a bit, because I'll have a phone call. Sorry.
All right. Okay, not a problem. Yeah. So it's 60 to 65% supermajority and at least a 60% turnout. Now that way, everybody has a say. That can affect some of the classic examples that you would have used to say in Northern Ireland would be the Irish Language Act. And another ethical issues as well, and those are the issues that affect people. Let's finish this voting for people just because, well, I don't. I detest the other major party, so I'll vote for this party because they're more acceptable. You can actually have an influence on individual decisions in your community. Thank you, John.
Stephen, thank you very much. And sorry to cut you short there. As I say, I've some stuff to do there, and we've sort of run over 10 minutes or so, and a tiny wee bit to go before we close. So, look, again, thank you to everybody for coming along this evening. And again, what I noticed over the weeks is that the numbers are growing. And the people that are coming, I mean, we see new names here regularly. And look, let's continue to make this grow. Let's continue to bring the names to the live chat. And, you know, it's a place whereby that people can have their say. It's a place whereby that what we can do is, you know, we can affect change. And if our politicians want to, you know, they want to ignore as well, okay. Well, what we do is we begin to write letters. And there was something very important there that I want to pick up on that George Russell had said. And I'm just looking, okay, here it is here. So George Russell had said that please do not threaten your politicians. It'll not help our case. Be polite and, you know, reference email. And that also goes for the live chat. You know, you don't threaten them. You don't do anything. What you do is you just say, you put them behind the 8 ball nicely. And what you say is that you're not doing your job. You need to do your job. We stood up for you in the time that you stood up for us. Things like that. That's what we need to do, because we'll get further when we're respectful, and we'll put these people in a position whereby that, you know, if they want to continue to do what they are doing, well, all they are doing is they're trashing themselves for future reference. And this week was big. Jim Allister of the TUV has come out with a very, very clear way in which that you know, that we can move forward, that we can protest. You know, it takes the politicians to create this protest for and on behalf of the people. Let's face it, the same politicians are sitting in Stormont and they're making rules and regulations, which is locking us all up, locking us down. Now, okay, COVID regulations are permitting this to happen, but at a time whenever we can't protest, we need them to protest for us. And they have it within their power to protest for and on behalf of the people. Are they going to be willing to do it, Stephen? That's the real question. And this is the real test for the DUP. There's a huge burden tonight, which is on the DUP's shoulders. And that goes right across the board. That's whether you're a councillor, an MLA, an MP, no matter whether you're in the hierarchy or you're in the lower echelons of the DUP. There's a huge responsibility on the DUP's shoulders. They are the only people today in January 2021 which has it within their power to save the greatest union that the world has ever seen. Now, we know what the EU want to do. We know what the globalists want to do. We know what Boris has bought into. They have all bought into destroying the United Kingdom. And I make no apologies for saying that. And I would like anyone to challenge me on exactly what I said there, because I can show with evidence that these people, what they say from their mouths isn't how their actions unfold. So there we go. People, thank you very much for coming along. And again, I would just like to promote the Forgotten Voices Media, because Stephen, this is going to be huge, and it's a really, really worthwhile project that I would like each and every one of us to get involved in. And I would like, if you know any victims, you get them to contact us, and we'll go and we'll scratch the surface, and we can do it online, where what we would like to do is we would like to tell their stories. We would like to see how it is that those people feel and why it is that those people are not being treated in the right way. And at a time whenever the terrorists are being elevated, at a time whenever the terrorists are being promoted as heroes, as peacekeepers, as peacemakers, when the terrorists are in our government, isn't it time that our victims were looked after? And, we need to shout from the highest parts on the rooftops to make that the circumstances whereby the victims are treated in a way than what they deserve. Look, thanks very much for coming. And what I would like to do, just before I play out here, I'm going to play Neil's story again. Neil Tattersall, the man that was in the Manchester bomb, an innocent man who literally, he was made a victim by IRA terrorists. And today in 2021, and from that day, 1992 to this day, all those people have ever done is to add insult to the injury that Neil has received at their hands. So, Stephen, thanks very much for coming along. Thanks very much to the live chat. People, if the live chat would just thank Stephen, if they would tell us what they think about the show, just leave your messages. And as we're playing us out with Hands Across the Water, because this is a UK-wide show. As we're playing us out with Hands Across the Water, we'll pop up the live chat on the screen. So watch out for your chat, and please leave messages and tell us what you think of the show. Thanks very much, and invite your friends and family. So over to Anne, please go and like and share and stick with and stand by Forgotten Voices Media. We owe it to the victims to ensure that their stories are told and the terrorists don't rewrite history.
Yeah. As I was saying, we didn't think for 1 minute that anything was going to happen. We thought we were going to get a free day off work, and then, as I say, I was sat on the wall, and I jumped down off the wall, and as I turned around, that's when the bomb went off, and I actually thought the bomb was in the building, and later found out that the bomb was behind the wall that I was sat on. So how I got off that, it probably went off, I don't know. And then just pandemonium. The building just came crashing down on top of us. And instinctively, the thing to do was to cover your head. But then, obviously, I felt an almighty thud in the bottom of my back. It was like somebody had really punched me hard in the bottom of my back. And I just saw people running, so I thought, well, that's what I've got to do. I managed to get up onto my feet, but I couldn't get even 2 steps away. And I just froze and I couldn't move. Two people came on either side of me and started dragging me off. And then the police took over, and I was outside Lloyd's Bank, but they couldn't move me any further than that. And then one of the police officers actually took whatever was in my back out my back. And then a bomb disposal guy came down, and he said that there was a bomb inside Lloyd's Bank, and that would move away from the scene. So the police responded, "We're not leaving him because, we're not leaving him." And his response was, "Well, leave him because he's dying anyway, And obviously hearing that wasn't a very good thing, They couldn't get an ambulance in to see me because the place was all sealed off. And eventually one of the police officers went off and brought an ambulance in with the crew. He said that they would come in and get me. And then obviously I was rushed into Manchester Royal Infirmary.
just across the Irish Sea, stirs a heart of loyalty, raising honor and indignity, drives the will to keep us British free. Not alone are we on this journey, we're in a land just across the sea. It's a hand that reaches out of friendship, and a bond that's lasted centuries. And its hands across the water, reaching out for you and me, for Queen Ulster and for Scotland, help to keep our loyal people free. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty, reaching out to the brave red hand of Ulster is the hand across the sea. Help to keep our loyal people free. Let the cry be no surrender, let no one doubt our loyalty, reaching out to the brave red hand of Ulster is a hand across the sea. Just across the Irish Sea, stirs a heart of loyalty, raising honor and dignity, drive the will to keep us British free. Not alone, we on this journey, for in a just across the sea, it's a hand that reaches out in friendship, it's the hand across the sea, it's the hand across the sea, it's a hand across the sea.
We didn't join Europe to be swallowed up in some bureaucratic conglomerate where it's Euro this and Euro that and forget about being British. We're British and we're proud of it. Proud of our traditions, proud of our national character.